Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of CPA podcast, which is considered the first podcast for intellectual property in the Arab world and the Middle East. And it's one of the activities of the Scientific Intellectual Property Association. Today, it's a special episode. Today, we are honored, we are happy, and we are lucky to have our esteemed guest for today's episode. She is an IP expert, IP leader, and a source of inspiration to many people in UAE and GCC and the Middle East. She graduated from the University of Cambridge with a bachelor's and master's degree in law, and she worked for some time in London, UK, before deciding to move to Dubai in 1995. After moving to Dubai, she established and led the intellectual property department in a very prestigious regional law firm for almost 15 years. And in 2011, she decided to establish her own law firm for legal consultancy, through which she provides strategic advice for commercial matters and especially for intellectual property. Actually, she has a lot of things, a lot of titles, a lot of positions. For example, but not limited to, she is the president of AIPPI UE Regional Group, and she is a board member with the Emirates Association for Intellectual Property, EPA. She is also a board member for the International Trademark Association, INTA, and she is also the chairman of the Dubai Business Group for Intellectual Property. She is also a panelist with the WIPO domain name neutrals. And because of all her efforts and hard work over the past years, she has received and has been receiving, and she is receiving continuously a lot of awards from local and international organizations. Let us welcome our esteemed guest for today, Ms. Hoda Barakat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hamada, for the very kind introduction. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation for today.
Pleasure.
I'm really, it's a big honor for me and also a big responsibility, to be honest, because to interview someone like you, it's a big responsibility.
It's a pleasure.
I hope that it will go as we wish, inshallah. As you know that many people consider you as the bridge between the public and the private sector. And today, we will discuss some points related to the cooperation or the importance of cooperation between the public sector and the private sector in promoting and especially for IP system, in promoting and improving the IP system in general. So for a start, in your opinion, from your experience, we know that you have visited a lot of countries, you have visited a lot of places, you have worked with many people, multinational companies, you have attended a lot of conferences. So from your experience, do you think that the concept of cooperation between the public and the private sector exists? I'm talking generally, not in UAE, I'm talking
Sure.
generally.
I definitely think it exists. And I think if you look around the world, actually, not just around the region, I think the countries that have done the best work and who are most advanced are the ones that have that cooperation between the public and private sector. So, I mean, I will use the UAE as an example, but actually, really, they're the example because they've led the way in this region by way of this cooperation between the public and the private sector. I think we're so blessed here to be able to, I mean, we know all the intellectual property office by first name. They have an open door policy. This is very rare. As you know, especially in our region, this is very rare. They are willing to cooperate with us on every level, actually. And even if there are things to be improved, they're willing to listen. So I think it definitely exists in the UAE. I think there are some other countries in the region that are trying to follow. I don't think any of them are yet where we are. And the UAE is a big believer in following best practices. And I think this is one best practice that is working extremely well.
Yes, I just asked this question because we faced in some countries that the public sector in one planet and the private sector in another. And there is no connection. The public sector will prepare all the regulations, pass all the rules, and the private sector has to execute it as it is without any negotiation, without any, they are not even asking for their opinion, what do you suggest, what you like, what you don't like. That's why I ask this question. So in your opinion, what is the best thing that encourages the private sector to participate with the public sector in forming the regulations, in giving the legal advice or mutual thinking for the current situation, for the future situation, for the coming years?
Look, I think if you look at it as an ecosystem, right? Each part exists and works based on the others. Or you can look at it as a big jigsaw. You can't finish the jigsaw if all the parts don't fit. So if the private sector doesn't want to work with the government sector, then the government sector doesn't want to work with the private sector. And then when the private sector has a problem, they can't get it fixed because they don't get the support from the government. If all the parts are working together, it's like a machine. It's like a well-oiled machine. It moves. It can move forwards. It can move backwards. It can move sideways. It can move easily and smoothly. If any one of the parts is not willing to cooperate, it will break down.
Yes.
And I think that's how I look at it. It's like also members of a team. You can use many analogies. We were talking earlier about sports. So if members of a team, if you have someone who's just not going to play, the team's not going to be it's not going to do very well.
Exactly, yes.
So I think that's how I look at it. And I think it's a really, really important thing. And, although I am the private sector, but I work closely with the government. And I often, even when I talk at conferences, I tell the private sector, we cannot just say, government, you must do this, government, you must do that. Actually, we have a role. Even as the private sector, we have a role. The NGOs have a role. The government has a role. And if we all participate in our roles and we cooperate and we work together, the theory, and I think the practice has been shown in the UAE, that it works so much better than when we're all working together, singing the same tune, working in the same team. Like I said, you can use many analogies, but if we do not work together, it just doesn't move.
Yes, but this is true. What you're saying is true. But what I'm saying is that normally the private sector will not take the initiative to go to the government and saying, I have some suggestion. Sometimes the public sector will encourage the private sector
100%.
to come and inform us what you are facing in the market, what you want for the best practice for everyone. And you give a very good example for UAE. They are calling us, come, what problems you are facing, tell us what issues you are facing.
Correct.
We can find some solution together, this kind of brainstorming and new ideas and all. Talking about intellectual property. Now, as you know, for big companies, multinational companies, normally they have in-house legal team that can put plans for them, put strategies, give advice for how to register your intellectual property rights, which market you are interested in, and other things. My question is that how can the initiatives put by the public sector can help the small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs and startups, specifically because they don't have the full knowledge, they don't have in-house legal team, and you know that for expenses also they are suffering, not suffering, but they have a shortage of finance at the beginning of the starting of the company. So how can the initiatives put by the public sector help this type of companies?
Sure. Firstly, we can take it at every level, actually, if you think about it. So one of the main initiatives of the government is to spread awareness and education about intellectual property. So there is one step that's educating them not only what intellectual property is, but how to protect it. So what is it and how do we protect it? Then once you know how to protect it, they also kind of go the next step of how do you enforce it. So, and there are many initiatives to help SMEs. If you are an SME and you apply to the government, they will try and help you, whether it's with the fees, whether it's with the advice. And they're aware, of course, that Big companies will have lots of in-house lawyers, lots of in-house specialists, not only general lawyers, but also specialists in intellectual property. So for sure, that's the government has a very big focus on SMEs. But also there are many initiatives. I mean, AIPPI, as you mentioned, the UAE chapter, we did an IP clinic, which you kindly supported and actually spoke at. So there's a clinic that's an NGO, so the AIPPI UAE, that ran in association with the Ministry of Economy, who invited the SMEs to come and learn and ask questions of professionals.
And it was for free. Yes, it was for
Correct.
Free. Exactly.
So there are lots of these initiatives that are there to also training and education of whether it's examiners, whether it's judges, prosecutors. There are many, many initiatives that are out there to try and support. Again, I'm going to use the word again, which is the ecosystem. You know, we all live together in this ecosystem. So we all need to be trained and be aware of and be educated in intellectual property.
Yes. You just mentioned something about awareness, awareness for intellectual property. As you know, in the Middle Eastern countries, in the MENA region, especially in the Arab world, all people give the responsibility to the government. The government has to do that, the government has to do this, and no one is blaming the private sector and the important role of the private sector in spreading and raising awareness between the customers, the client, the society in general. So in your opinion, how can the private sector play a role, effective role in spreading and raising awareness for intellectual property?
I totally agree with you. The private sector definitely has a role and has a big role, actually. And like I said, when I speak at conferences, I often say to the private sector, you can't sit back and say, oh, the government isn't doing this, the government isn't doing that. Well, you have a role as well. You have to do your part in that role, whether it's the education, the awareness, or even bringing that information about a breach and enforcement action or whatever. There's a role on you. The role on you is also to register your intellectual property. The government provides the system. You have to go and you have to register and use that system. So there is a huge role on the private sector. We are trying very hard, whether it's through one of the organizations or the entities, that are around. Even the Emirates Intellectual Property Organization has a huge awareness, many awareness campaigns. And whether it's with the government, so they go and talk to the ministries, whether it can be any ministry, they will talk to them. They ran many campaigns. They've also done a training, a training program for kind of the leaders and the champions of intellectual. So they will train somebody in an organization so that person will become the champion in that entity. And that's like a intellectual property leadership program. So there are many, many things that are going on. And yes, absolutely, the private sector has a big role to play.
Yes. This takes us to one point that I want to ask you about the non-profit associations. In UAE, luckily we have AIPPI, we have Emirates Intellectual Property Association, among others, but these are the two main associations that, in cooperation with the Ministry of Economy, we are working hard to spread awareness and talk to the people, SMEs and startups, and inform them about the procedure. And a lot of things are free of cost. And in Egypt we have some, and in Saudi Arabia we have. So I can feel from what you said that this non-profit association has a very important role.
Absolutely.
And luckily we have it during the last years here in the in the GCC region. And from your experience, what is the basic role that these organizations are playing? And do you face their existence in other countries?
There are some in other countries. I think you've probably mentioned two. So the Emirates Intellectual Property Association, for sure, I think is the largest. It's very grassroots.
They are doing a very good job, actually.
Yes, absolutely. And they're very grassroots. So they're very involved in with the government sector and with the private sector. AIPPI is kind of a branch of an international organization. You have the Brand Protection Group, which was established here. I think it was about 20 years ago. Malik was telling me 15 or 20 years ago. And you have also a new group, which is the Dubai Business Group for IP. So we have a few. We are lucky. Look, I mean, NGOs aren't that common in the region, especially for intellectual property. But I would say we in the UAE, we definitely lead the way for sure in the involvement of NGOs, and they are very involved, and all of them have a role in awareness and education for intellectual property.
The names you have mentioned now for the association, the non-profit association, they are very remarkable here in UAE and in GCC, and this what makes the difference. I can see in other countries some associations are there, but they are just names. Mm-hmm. But there is no actions on the ground. Mm-hmm. There is no benefit that they can give to the society. So what makes the difference here in UAE is that these organizations, non-profit organizations, they are cooperating with the Ministry of Economy for many things, workshops, as you said, some putting in plans, and actually, this is what I said in the beginning, that we are finding some kind of support and encouragement from the government itself, that they are inviting us, come and discuss with us your problems, what you are facing in the markets. And this is, you cannot find in many places. Yeah. So this also takes us to the next point, that from your experience, what is the best example you find as a partnership between the public and the private sector, whether in UAE or Middle East or in any country?
The best example as an entity or as a project?
As a project, as a partnership between the public sector and the private sector.
Look, I think one of the and it's been going now for, I think it's 13th or 14th year, is the project, for example, between the Emirates IP Association, the Ministry of Economy, Interpol. They have an annual Middle East North Africa conference on enforcement of intellectual property rights. And that's been going really well and very, very strongly. And I think that's a beautiful project. That's an annual conference. And it brings in people from all over the world, actually. Although its focus is the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, but there are attendees from absolutely all over the world. So that's a really nice project, I think. But there are many, many projects, whether from the government, the Ministry of Economy has, I think, 23, 24 projects now, initiatives, which they work with the private sector on. InstaBlock is one of the initiatives that's about to be launched. Yes. That's a public-private partnership. Each one of the NGOs has projects, continuous projects. But I think there are so many here. Honestly, I think we'd be hard pushed to just, I've just named 2 or 3, but there's so many. I have to say, from my experience, the region doesn't have that many similar kind of, whether it's a kind of activity or initiatives. But so I mean, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I definitely feel the UAE is ahead in that.
Actually, it's not a bias, but we can feel it, and we can see it on the ground, that there are a lot of things between the public and the private sector, and we are part of it. So my question for this point exactly, now in the current age, a lot of challenges are there, a lot of emerging trends are there, mm-hmm. especially in the age of AI mm-hmm. and blockchain, and a lot of things are there, digital age. Mm-hmm. Related to intellectual property. My question is related to intellectual property. Do you think that these new trends, emerging trends for digital age, blockchain, and AI push the cooperation between the public and the private sector for more advanced level to face what is coming?
Yes, I absolutely. I think we go back to working together to make something move. Now, the way I look at these challenges in the digital age is there are opportunities and there are challenges. There are opportunities because I think they can help us do things in a much better, much faster, much smarter way. So I think there's a huge opportunities there. But of course there are challenges because firstly, the laws aren't drafted in a way that envisions this digital age. So there are lots of challenges and that's quite normal, that the law is slower than technology, right? Technology moves much faster than the changes of the law. And the law is always trying to catch up. It's running, trying to catch up to what the technology is doing. To work together, I mean, I think one of the biggest skills today is to be versatile. to be able to move, to adapt, to change to things that are moving so fast. And traditionally and typically, laws just don't do that, right? Because there's a process before you can change a law and before you can tweak things. So they are definitely challenging times. And it's not unique to the UAE, to the Middle East, to North Africa. This is a global problem. Every single country in the world is facing this problem. That technology is pushing boundaries. It's changing and understanding. So AI, who do you protect in the AI? Can an AI that's created something, are they an inventor? These are million-dollar questions, right? So
Yes.
and no one really has an answer. So we're hopefully working together will help us get to at least reasonable answers, and we may need to change those answers. It's constantly moving.
Yes. I think earlier I asked you about the role of the private sector in raising the awareness and all. Now I have a specific question for intellectual property experts.
Mm-hmm.
People who are attending conferences, who are
Yep.
traveling abroad, who have experience from other countries, and some agent offices, they have offices in other countries and they are facing some improvement, some updates, some improvements. And me, myself, I'm facing a lot of things with them that they are not sharing this kind of knowledge with each other here in UAE. So in your opinion, do you think we as experts also, if I go, for example, to Singapore or to US, and I find that they have established some new regulation for AI or for blockchain, that they have fixed some kind of issues that the society is facing, why, from my feeling of responsibility, I will go to responsible people and I will tell them, we find this one. If it could help, we can discuss it together.
Yes, I think I think it's our responsibility to do that. I think if you care about the country that you live in and the country that you work in, you absolutely have a responsibility to bring those ideas. And there are some countries like the UAE that opens its doors and says, okay, let us know what the best practice is. Is there something we can do that we can improve, that we can do better? And they themselves are constantly looking. So, I mean, as you know, I work as with the Ministry of Economy in a number of capacities. One of them is as a consultant. And the first question is, okay, what are the best practices? What do other countries do? We're always looking to sense check. Are we doing it the right way, the best way? But are we doing it also in a way that suits us and our environment correctly? So maybe it's fantastically working. There's a system that works perfectly in another country, but it doesn't quite suit what we do. We tweak that best system to suit us. So it's always look at best practices, but make sure it's the application and the way it works here suits us and our culture, environment, legal system. So
Yes.
it's look at best practices, but make sure it's adapted to best suit our needs.
Yes, of course, it will not be like copy and paste.
Correct.
Some kind of readjustment will be there, readjustment, and to make it suitable and proper for our community and our society. I have another question related to what we are discussing, that, of course, you have a job, I have a job, everyone has a job. And many people asking us when they are seeing us or attending with us some conferences or some workshops, and they are asking how you can make balance between the volunteer work we are doing and our professional work. This is a very challenging question, and I want the detailed answer for it. How people are asking me how you can find time arranging and making balance for a lot of things you are doing. I think, as I told you, some people feel lazy to participate. Some people feel irresponsible that it's not my job or something like this. And some people prefer to be paid. I'm very frank with you.
Correct.
Anything for free they will not do. This is for free, I will not do. They don't have this kind of volunteer work they can contribute to society.
I think you've asked $1 million question, right? So I'm expecting $1 million when I answer this. Not that I haven't answered this. I'll share with you what I think. I don't know if it's the right answer or not, but certainly what I think. There is always a balance in life, right? It's like even if you don't do volunteer work, you have to balance your work and your family life. Okay, so everything in life is a balance. Where you strike that balance depends on your personal circumstances. Some people have lots of support. They can afford to give more time. Lots of people have no support. They cannot afford. Some people are working because they need the money. Some people are working because maybe they don't need as much money. They're lucky. And it's where you try and find that balance is what's important. So that's one element of it. Another element of it, some people genuinely enjoy giving back to society. Okay. Some people don't really care. Okay. I'm happy to I'll do my job, but I'm not interested in going and educating, making aware, raising awareness. Some people enjoy teaching and lecturing and kind of giving their knowledge to other people. It's like teachers or educators. They enjoy that. Some people don't. So I think it's very dependent on who and what you are. And also some people are working in jobs that their bosses just won't allow them to, right? You're expected to do so many billable hours, and that's what we're expecting. So you have to look at all of these factors and try. I mean, I know very much because I see you at a lot of these events. You enjoy that element of the giving back to society and working, and the money is irrelevant when you're doing that. How much you can give is really, it depends on your personal circumstances. It's a difficult question and a difficult answer, but I enjoy it. I enjoy very much the kind of this kind of work. I enjoy being the bridge between the private and the public sector, working with the government, working with the private sector. So it's also what you enjoy,
Yes, and I think this is what makes people different. One of my principles in life that the person will continue learning till the last day of his life.
Absolutely.
And we are learning from each other. I'm surprised that sometimes we are attending, some people will see me in some place, I'm giving lecture or I'm a lecturer, and there is some audience in front of me. Next day, he will find me among the audience. And why are attending this kind of things? You already have the knowledge. I said, okay, I want to share knowledge between each other. I'm attending with Saudi Arabia or here and there. They are not doing this, and then they are blaming us that why you are not informing them, why you are not updating them. So if you are not exerting any effort, why are expecting other people to help you? We already informing you that we have a workshop tomorrow in the Ministry of Economy. They will not come. And later on, when they are surprised about the updates and all that, I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. This is what makes people different. People are exerting effort, are not like the people are staying home.
Sure.
And some activities are also after the working hours and everyone can attend. But still people can feel some kind of laziness maybe, or they don't want, they are not interested.
Or maybe they just don't have the time, I mean, at the end of the day also it can be, we're all very busy. So I have no problem with someone who just cannot afford the time, right? They don't. But I think if you can, there's a lot of personal reward in being able to kind of pass on your knowledge. And I think also it's
I think it's a kind of passion.
It is a passion.
If you don't have it, you cannot push the person.
Correct.
Yes.
100% correct.
Yes.
It is a passion, and you enjoy it or you don't enjoy it. You're absolutely right. Because I think when you enjoy something, you tend to make time for it.
Yes. This leads us to the next question regarding, it's not a question, it's an advice. I need your advice for the IP agents.
Mm-hmm.
Why I'm asking you this, asking your advice for this, because I have faced a lot of issues with some clients that will come to us that he was dealing with some people.
Mm-hmm.
These people are not updated enough with the procedures. Mm-hmm. And they are also not doing the job in a proper way. And as you know, IP agents, they are, they're representing the ministry before the public, before the people. And I remember someone came to me last year and he has a very bad experience with some agent. And he said, I fed up with all agents. I don't want to work with any agents. I will do the work myself. And the problem, he is from another country and he cannot do the work himself because, as you know, by law, it's not allowed. Mm-hmm. So what is your advice for the IP agents in UAE and GCC and in any country when they are dealing with clients? What is the best practice that they should follow?
Look, in many countries, there is actually, you cannot be a trademark agent without an exam, without being registered with an association of some sort that has a supervisory role. So in some countries, they don't face that. I definitely think anybody who practices anything, actually, I mean, we're talking about trademark agents, patent agents, whatever, but in general, anything, you need to be up to date. You need to keep, and this is where, you were saying about conferences and seminars and workshops. You have to go, because even the way I look at it, if I go to something and I learn one piece of information, that's added a huge amount to me. So I think it's extremely important that people do attend conferences and seminars to keep up to date with things, especially now in the digital age where everything is changing so quickly. So yes, it's very important that agents keep up to date and are aware of any changes and the latest developments.
Yes, I think this Minister of Economy knew also the paid attention to that.
Yes.
That's why, if you remember, last week I shared the trademark agent code of conduct, or the charter itself that Minister of Economy already published. And I was surprised that many people don't know about it. So now the ministry, I think they came to know that some problems are there.
Yes.
That's why they put themselves as the what we call inspecting authority for agents. That there is a code of conduct, there is a charter.
Yes.
You have to follow 1, 2, 3. As you said, there is some kind of examination, some kind of interviews, some kind of experience required to be an agent. Because at the end of the way, as I told you, they are representing the government.
100%.
And if someone comes from outside and he deals with some agent and he feels some kind of issues, he will blame the country as a whole. So this is very important. Do you agree for that?
I totally agree. And I'm well aware of the Ministry of Economy's new regulation. And they looked at best practices in other countries to see how they could be sure that the trademark agents, the agents that they're working with, are aware of all the changes and the systems and the policies and procedures to ensure that any company that comes to use them is not disappointed. Also, these agents are actually bad in both directions. Let me explain what I mean. When they're dealing with the client, they don't know what they're talking about. And then when they're dealing with the ministry, they don't know what they're talking about. So on both sides, there's a problem. So the new regulations are there to rectify both those. That the ministry is dealing with someone who is aware of the rules, the regulations, the procedures, what needs to be done, and that then gets transferred to the client in good advice, and that we don't have clients and companies who will say, "Oh, the UAE is this or the UAE." So it will put forward the best impression of the UAE.
Yes, and what I like in it is that they have to do that.
Correct.
Otherwise, there are some kind of penalties and
Correct.
punishment and some kind of...
Correct. The intention is to bring up the level of the trademark agents to at least a minimum that everybody that deals with them knows that they're dealing with somebody professional who knows what they're talking about.
Yes, exactly. Another thing, Ms. Hoda, that at the current stage, that for intellectual property, in your opinion, what do you think that any new law should be upgraded, or what we are facing now? Not in UAE, I'm talking generally.
Sure.
in the Middle East or in any country. In your opinion, what do you think that we should work together to improve or to upgrade in order to face the fast changes that is happening in the world?
Look, in general, I mean, I'll talk specifically about the UAE because we're here, but I mean, this applies everywhere. The laws are not usually the problem, okay? The problem and where there are issues is the implementation. So, like I said, I'll just use the UAE as an example. We have actually world-class laws. Our laws are above minimum standards. They're actually very good. Now, are they always equally applied? That's where, there might be differences. In other countries, their laws, even if they're not up to maybe UAE standard, but some of them are very, very good laws. But the implementation, the enforcement on the ground isn't always there, or the judgments that come out of various courts in other countries are not up to the standard of what the law is saying. So I'm one of those people who believes it's not all about, people say there's a problem in intellectual property in whatever country it happens to be. And the problem is the law. It isn't the law. It's the implementation and the enforcement of the law that's the problem. And this is where constant training and education and awareness and all of this brings up that minimum level of implementation.
Yes. Do you think after 10 years we'll have other types of intellectual property, like we have trademark, patent, copyright, industrial design? Do you think after 10 years maybe we have other types?
Yeah, honestly, nowadays I believe anything. With the rate of development, especially with AI, I think potentially yes. Who knows? The challenges that we're facing, it's very possible. It is. I don't know the answer, but I do think there is a big possibility.
So from your vision, do you think AI will continue with us to what stage? Or like what happened with Metaverse? I remember Metaverse when it started, it was a huge revolution. Then after that...
No, I think AI is different. AI is a very different thing. Firstly, even today, it's incorporated into everything. I think the new generation are so used to also working with AI. AI is learning. I mean, it's a tool that itself is learning. We're not learning from it. It's learning from us, and it's exceeding us. So, and the speed of its learning is amazing. So I do think that AI is very much here with us. I think it can only get smarter and smarter and better and better. And should we avoid it? No. Actually, I'm a big believer we should embrace it, use it, let it help us. And I think there are many studies now on, even just in law firms that don't use AI are falling behind law firms that are using AI. And by using AI doesn't mean they're asking AI to do everything for them, but they know how to best use it to for their clients best. And it's a phenomenal tool.
Yes.
It's the future.
Talking about the non-profit associations in cooperation with the government and the public sector. Yesterday in the IP clinic, one stakeholder, she was there and she participated with us for many questions. And she said, how can I come to know about your activities? I don't know anything about your organization. I don't know about IPA. I don't know about AIPPI. She said like that. And we informed her that you can find our websites, you can find our social media pages. But my question is that what can non-profit association do in a better way to spread more and more among the society?
I guess based on what the complaint was, the best thing we can do is communicate better. So, I mean, I know what we do. We have circulars, newsletters, the portal, the website, LinkedIn. Maybe, we need to get to be smarter with how we communicate, particularly probably to the new generation who are so used to social media. So I guess our communication needs and our outreach needs to be a bit smarter as to how we spread the word.
Yes, but we should take into consideration also the old generation, that some people still there. And I think we can expand it by physical visits to the companies and face-to-face conversations. Some people, when you talk to them, I did not receive the mail. I did not see the message. Sorry for that, but that's why I can say that we should work in different directions.
Yes, absolutely.
Emails, social media posts, physical visits also. Normally, I prefer physical, that people meet each other.
Look, I'm still of the old generation that believes that of physical visits, and so I absolutely agree with you. But if the criticism we're hearing is that they didn't hear about us, people aren't aware, then we need to get smarter. And maybe you're right. We just don't work in just one direction. We need to work in every direction. So we need to look at physical meetings, physical whatever, as well as social media and online.
Yes. Another question I want to ask you, because I faced it myself not with me, but I was in some place in one workshop. When you're doing some volunteer work, as you said, you are not paid for it. You have the passion to do it, and you want to exert your energy and spend something for the society. And after that, you will feel happy. But did you face before that you are doing this and someone from the attendees or someone from the audience behaves in an aggressive way, or he becomes some kind of misconduct, that he's blaming you for something, or he's gives you the impression that you are working for him?
I have to say, personally, I have not come across that.
Yes.
I usually find people are actually very happy that, you know, somebody has taken the time to stand there and to actually give from their own experience and share. So I haven't had that. I'm just trying to think if I've seen it, but maybe I've been lucky I haven't. So
Yes.
if you have had it, I'd be interested to hear.
Yes. It happens with someone that he was giving some kind of volunteer
Interesting.
work, and someone of the attendees blamed him for, and he was very aggressive,
Oh, wow.
giving him the impression that he's working for him and he's paid for that.
Okay.
So this kind of discouragement also happens sometimes, that you are giving some volunteer work, and I mean the response
Yeah,
from the audience is not
interesting.
good. So this also, we should what we call enlighten the people and the society. When you find someone giving volunteer work, you should support him,
100%.
not
Absolutely.
just blaming him. And if you have any question, of course, he will be happy to help you on that. So I want to, in our last discussion for this topic, IP, your advice for all the private sector. Private sector means IP agents, IP experts, stakeholders, anyone that has relation with IP. What is your advice one by one?
My advice is keep up to date with what's the changes, especially nowadays. The changes are very regular. So keep up to date. That's really important. Give back to society by, you know, supporting one of these NGOs and speaking at conferences, educating the public, awareness, etc. And be an ambassador. I mean, to me, I feel each one of us is an ambassador for what we do. I feel that when I talk about intellectual property, I'm an ambassador for IP. So, and I think if we all look at it that way, hopefully we can put across the best picture possible to everybody, whether it's the private or the public sector.
Yes. At the end of our episode today, we thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and we are lucky to have you today. And we'll meet in next episode, inshallah, for different topics. Today's topic is very specific. That's why we don't have too many questions. Thank you so much for following us for today, and we are waiting you for the next episode. And we thank our esteemed guest for today, Ms. Hoda. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a
and
pleasure.
See you.
Thank you.
And you can give the last word for the audience.
The last word is just really to say thank you. And I hope there are more people with your passion for what you do.
Thanks so
much. Because I think that's what really, that's what makes us all succeed and do well in life, inshallah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and see you in our next episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.